All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Turjo Talks. I'm your host, Turjo. Today's guest is a rising force in the parking and technology industry. Dilshan Singh is the founder and CEO of Refined Parking Solutions, a company known for delivering high-end parking services to luxury restaurants, hotels, and major developments. Dilshan's entrepreneurial spirit began early. Man, I thought I started early, this guy. At age 12. He launched his first business, and by 17, he was running a successful landscaping company. After entering the park industry as a valet, he quickly rose through the ranks and saw an opportunity to offer more ethical, service-driven solutions. That vision became the foundation for Refined Parking Solutions. Today, he leads a team of over 200 employees across multiple territories and was recognized by the National Parking Association as one of their 40 under 40 leaders. You're not even 30 yet, so you're doing way, way better than what these guys even say. Dilshan is passionate about empowering others, investing in leadership development, and improving standards across the industry. Dilshan Singh, welcome to the show. And I've known you for 5 minutes now, and I'm already a fan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, 26 years old and crushing it. So you never sleep.
I try to get some now.
Addicted to work,
Yep.
workaholic, and you're recently engaged.
That's right.
I don't know who your fiance is, but if she's listening, run. Don't do it. Do not do it. He's a great guy that's addicted to success, man. It's trouble. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So give me your background. Where are you from? How did you get started? All of it. I got a lot of questions here.
Yeah. So was born in Italy. Grew up there until I was about 8 years old.
Hey, Italian, Punjabi.
You
You can't beat that, man.
That's right.
That's wild.
Yep. Yep. Dad was there. Parents were there. So we grew up there. I grew up on a dairy farm. Moved to India when I was 8 years old to try to come to the U.S.
Right.
Lived there for about a year and a half, 2 years. Went to school there, did the whole thing. Moved to the U.S. in 2008.
Great time to be here, huh?
Yeah, right when the market crashed. Yep. Actually moved here Christmas Day, 2008. And been here ever since. Lived in Atlanta ever since.
Okay.
Yeah, really the entrepreneurial side started by just seeing my parents struggle.
Right.
Saw a lot of struggle growing up, saw them, going through ups and downs, not having food for themselves, but making sure that we ate.
Right.
That put some type of hunger in me.
Right. The sacrifice.
Yep.
So what made you, is it more of what was the hunger in you? Is it more financial or is it more the drive?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you and I are similar. I heard your podcast. It's a legacy thing, right? I think legacy is very important.
Right.
I think for me, the biggest thing is seeing that suffering from my parents and making sure that they never have to go through that again.
Right.
Right. That's number one for me, is making sure they're taken care of.
Right.
And then number two is, how does it change moving forward? Right. How do my kids have a better life than I had?
Right.
Right. And continues down.
Right. That's very empowering, because at that point, you're never satisfied with what you currently have. You just want to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing.
That's
And
right.
keep going.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily financial.
No,
It's about building people and building
More than that.
leaders and, having something sustainable that lives after me.
Right. That's incredible. It's amazing. So how did you get into this? Give me the valet story. Give me, how does one get into parking?
Yeah. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
Didn't ever think I was going to be in parking.
Yeah, like you could have done technology, cool things, whatever, but you're like, I'm going to go park.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit of my landscaping world. I did that from when I was at 12, I was buying and selling phones. I would buy broken screens and phones with broken screens on Craigslist. I would repair the screens and then flip them. I did a lot of that, made a lot of money doing that. Started landscaping when I first got a car, whenever that was, at about 15 years old.
Right.
And I've always been an entrepreneur.
And landscaping, like you just got in there, I'm just going to go mow grass and just start cutting.
Yeah, I was cutting, I had 2 mowers and a Toyota Corolla.
Wow.
Yeah. Would have to put the back seats down, slide them in. The car smelled like gasoline for years. But got it done. And at 17, I actually started a technology company.
Okay.
Which failed. Gave me about $80,000 of debt, money I had borrowed from friends and family to do that.
Right.
and I was working at Dunkin' Donuts at the time.
Right.
Had been there for a couple of years, was one of the assistant managers, but wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
I know you were part of that world. I was
Yeah.
making, I think, $8.50 an hour. Nothing.
But you're assistant manager though.
That's right. Yeah. By title.
You have the title. Yeah.
So had that debt, and I needed to make some more money so I could start paying people back.
Right.
Started calling around some of my friends looking for work. Hey, where are you working? And one of my friends was like, I'm a valet, making really good money.
Yeah.
And I've always been a car guy. I love cars. I love, I can drive anything.
Yeah.
Right. So got a job as a valet, actually right down the street from here at Red Pepper on Piedmont.
Okay. Yeah.
Which has now gone out of business.
Yeah.
But got a job there as a valet. And that's how my journey into the parking world started. Really, at the time, I thought it was going to be a temporary, just something I do while I'm in school. And I was starting college at the time. So it was just something to make some extra money, but kind of fell in love with it.
That's awesome. So walk me back a little bit here. You get a Corolla, how do you build this landscaping company? And how big was it?
It wasn't massive.
Yeah.
I think we had about 80 lots on rotation
For
monthly.
a 17-year-old, that was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, it was me and one of my best friends. Noah is actually the guy I started the parking company with.
Okay.
And we would just get out of high school, and we would have the mowers in the car.
And just go
start cutting grass. And that's what we did.
That's awesome.
And how it grew was really word of mouth.
Yeah.
And knocking on people's doors.
So just fearless, just entrepreneurial. I'm just gonna go get it done.
Yeah, just wanted to prove myself is what I would say.
And how do you come up with the idea of landscaping? Is it just because everyone needs it?
I think it's accessible, right? I think as a young person, it's easy to start cutting grass, right? You can pick up a mower for a couple $100 and just start, cutting grass. Obviously, over time, we expanded about a zero turn and those things, but early on, it was just, buying a blower and a mower and getting to work.
And move on. And what did you do with that business? Did you sell it or did you stop that business?
No,
and
just
move on?
wound down and we just kind of walked away.
Jumped into a new one.
Yeah.
And what kind of technology were you in?
So I was trying to build a liquor delivery platform. This is the early days of Drizzly and all of that. There was nothing here in the Southeast that was happening, especially due to the stringent laws that are in place here. But we I had a partner in that one as well, a partner that gave me the money to do it. He was actually the owner of the Dunkin' Donuts I worked at. Okay. I remember I called him one night at about 9:30. I was like, "Hey, I have an idea."
Yeah.
And he was sold. Yeah. We built that, hired some developers, built the app, did the whole thing, went to launch, and very quickly started getting some cease and desist and things like that, and had to.
So you were impactful.
Yep. Had to shut that down, and the claim was that we were buying and selling liquor, even though we weren't. We were just a delivery service. But in hindsight, now looking back, I would have fought against that.
You're distributing, but you're not. Yeah.
Yeah. So we walked away from that. My partner at the time got, we decided that it just wasn't the best move to continue.
Right.
So we walked away from that, but that left me with some debt.
How old were you when you did that?
I was 17.
17. So
yeah, I was turning 18.
The incredible thing is that, failures come and go. You're an entrepreneur. We live for that. But the fact that you had a vision at 17 to really start something, people trusted you, so you got funding done, all that good stuff. So on your way to something bigger and better.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I was lucky to have some people that trusted me and cared about me, and they knew I was a go-getter.
Right.
So they
put your egos to the side, and then you jump into valet now.
Yep. And got a job as a valet. Quickly realized that there were no systems, no practices in place to really maximize the customer experience by any means.
Oh, just get the car and move.
That's right. No. It was an interesting experience. We would have claims, and we would be told to just get the car off the lot, things like that, and just very quickly realized that there was opportunity in this place to provide a higher level of service and a better product.
You're an entrepreneur. You're always looking for something.
Yep. So within moved up pretty quickly in that company, became a lot manager within about 3 or 4 months. But in that time, I was already.
And what does a lot manager do versus just your
Yeah, so a lot manager does the scheduling.
Okay.
They do the collecting all the money, making sure it's paid out to the employees, making sure the tips are paid out, making sure that the company gets their money, making sure that you meet with
you're managing the whole location, actually.
Right, you meet with the client, you make sure there's any events going on or anything like that you're prepared for.
Awesome. Yeah. And then how long were you at that company for?
I was there for about a year.
Okay.
About 6 months in, I started my own company, Refined Parking. And then we started doing some small events and things like that. And very quickly, the owners of the company I was working for found out, and I was terminated.
Yeah, get this guy out.
Yep.
He's still in my business.
Yeah, I remember I got a call at about midnight one night as I was headed home from a valet shift.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, what is Refined Parking?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh,
I refined it."
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, that's my new company."
Yeah.
And it was mutual. I walked away.
Yeah.
And
good for you.
Yeah.
And so give me, what does Refine, what did it do, I guess, when it first started? So what was the problem that you were solving?
So at the time, we started really just doing valet services, mainly for restaurants. That's really all we did for the first few years. Was we focused on high-end restaurants, and we provided valet services, just a higher level of service.
So what was that? So you go to a Chops, I'm making that, and say, "Hey, Turjo, I know you own this place. You don't have valet right now. I would offer the services. You don't pay me anything, or
no?
The restaurants would pay you." Okay.
Yeah, so it's generally built on some type of management fee where they're either paying for labor hours or management.
Okay.
A lot of the times when we are implementing new valet services, they're generally newer locations, right, that haven't had valet yet. So we do a lot of that, knocking on doors.
Right.
That's what we used to do, is knocking on doors, walking into places, and but majority of our work was taking contracts from existing locations, right, that already had valet, that were having challenges.
Got it.
Right. Valet it's a tough business, especially today, right? You have a younger generation of people that are working and parking cars. You have a lot of wrecks, a lot of claims,
turnovers,
a lot of turnover. And it can be challenging to manage a team of 8, 10, 12 people per location.
And do you want to manage your restaurant crew, focus on that, or jump into something
that's right,
it doesn't make you a lot of money per se?
That's correct. And generally for restaurants, it's a money loss, right? Running valet, it's a service, right? But for us, we can make it more of an opportunity for us and for the restaurant.
Right. By the way, I think it's a great feature to have.
Yep.
As a consumer, as a customer, like if it's valet versus non, if I had to pick one, valet all day.
Yeah, same here.
It makes
it also increases the time people spend in your restaurant and things like that. So that's always something to consider.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So you started Refine Parking. How many clients do you have? What's your first client?
Believe it or not, our first client was actually a strip club.
Classy.
Yep.
Classy.
It was the only contract we could get at the time.
Beggars can't be choosy.
Yep, that's right.
And we're entrepreneurs, so we don't judge.
That's right. We didn't judge. Yeah. We provided the services they needed. That was our first location. It was here in Buckhead as well. And then slowly we just started growing in the market.
Right.
We went to 2 locations and 3. And then by the time COVID came around, which was a big turning point for us, we were at about 180 employees. And I don't have an exact count of locations. I would say somewhere between 50 or 60 locations.
Right. So 3 to 4 employees per.
Yep.
And you guys just rotating.
And
how does that work? Is that a contract business, or is it just kind of month to month as you go? How does that contract work in that business?
So generally they're contracted. Most of them have a 30-day out in the agreements, right? Cool. But most of the time it's a 2 to 3 year agreement.
Got it.
That we're signing up for.
Awesome.
Because there is some expenditure on our end as well that we're making into investing in that location, signage, equipment, things like that. And then it progressed slowly into the other things we're doing now.
Awesome. So, why can't I go and say, Turjo's valet now, right? What made you different? How are you gaining? Because you're taking business from somewhere. Right. I'm sure you have a few guys that's open to the new idea, but most of them are transferring over from someone. Right. What made you different?
It was our level of service. We cared a lot about training and about putting out the best guys, having really stringent hiring practices. Right. We do background checks. We do drug testing, all of it at the time.
No one leaves with my car.
Yep. We did. We had really we really focused on training with our team members, not just throwing guys out there, right? Just to serve the need of having somebody, making sure that they were trained to a level of a Forbes 5-star service.
Right.
And that was our focus. And that's how we slowly entered into the hospitality and hotel market, serving those hotels.
Makes sense. I mean, it's funny, till I'm sitting with you here, never really thought about it, but now just coming to my mind, it's a big difference between good and, like, you go to a really good restaurant or a really good hotel, the way they greet you, a little water bottle or something, a little extra. And then, some of them really stick out where they're like, especially with the wife or the kids or whatever, can I take your trash away? Or it makes a big difference.
How can you anticipate your guest needs before your guest knows what they need?
Exactly.
That.
And remember, the receptionist is not the first one you see.
That's right.
The valet is the first one you see.
We're the first and last impression of every restaurant, hotel,
makes
or
a big difference, especially when you drive off and you have a water bottle.
Yep.
It's a little thing that you don't think about.
It's the little touches, right? Is how do you provide a better service level? How do you make sure that you're truly, it's not service, it's about hospitality, right? And what's the difference there?
And again, I would get in the car and I would never say, Refine was great. I would say Chops was amazing, or the St. Regis was really good this time.
That's right.
But you don't think about it, so it's a big value add to the business itself.
That's right.
And it could be harmful too.
Yeah, and that's what we always tell our clients. It's the consumer thinks it's Chops Valet.
Yeah.
It's not Refine's Valet, right?
Yeah.
And that's in our focus is, and that's why we're very involved in. We want to be a part of the restaurant or a part of the hotel, right? We want to be part of the family and part of the culture. So we require our managers and our team members to be a part of their stand-up, be a part of what promotions they're doing and things like that, any team outings and things like that, because we want them to truly be a part of their team. Right.
Are you doing private events too?
We do some now. At the time, early on, we did a lot more of them.
Okay.
Now, since we have so many active contracts, it's
hard for you to do.
It's hard. It's economically harder to do them.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you're in year what now?
So we really focused on the valet side up until 2020. So started in 2017 up until 2020, and then I'm sure March. I heard
whatever happened. Yeah,
I heard your story as well about the same time, about March 14th or 15th.
I made a $140 million transaction the day before Donald Trump shuts down the country.
Wow.
Literally the day before, hours before.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so my problems weren't that big, but they were pretty big. I remember I started getting calls early March of a lot of our locations starting to wind down services. Initially, I wasn't very concerned. It was a couple of them, right? Wasn't very concerned about the COVID thing. I don't think anybody really was, right?
Especially entrepreneurs. I was like, it's the flu.
That's right. It'll go away.
And next week, we're fine.
Yep. That was our mentality as well. But obviously, March 14th or 15th, whatever the date is, when
March 13th is Friday the 13th.
Yep. So on that day, when everything started shutting down, that was a big learning lesson for us and a big moment for us as a company.
It's hard to valet when there's no one out there.
Right. Right. And how do you keep your team, happy? How do you make sure you retain those guys and you don't have a timeline of,
and what do you say?
Right. Are we shut down for a week? Are we shut down for a month? Are we shut down for 6?
Right. You don't know.
So that was a big learning lesson for us. We were also, majority of our employees or majority of our team at the time were contractors.
Okay, good.
So that was a learning lesson for us, is that moving forward, we want to make sure all of our team members are W-2, they're employees, so they can receive government benefits and all of those things in those times.
Protection, you never know. So when did it really set in for you that, holy geez, like this is a problem?
So I pretty much got calls from every client in one day.
Very quickly. Okay,
letting us know that they were shutting down, they weren't going to be open any longer, and then it was time for us to make decisions, because as you know, the business expenses didn't stop, the revenue did, right? So
overnight too. It's not like it's a gradual slowdown. It shuts.
That's right. And for me at the time, we were still young, and this was a young company. I wasn't making a lot of personal money. Didn't have any savings or anything like that. So the concern was, how do I survive? How does my business partner, who has a wife, survive? He has a kid on the way. At the time, I believe his first baby was on the way. Is how does he survive? So I remember letting all of our team members know that, hey, we are temporarily shutting down, but we will definitely be back as soon as things return. And what is crazy is that, life came back around, and my partner was at the time was telling me, hey, I need to find a job. I need to do something. I have to make money. I have a kid on the way. And I said, no, you're not finding a job.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Right.
And
it's the most painful thing in the world for an entrepreneur to say, I have to go get a job because you put so much into it.
See, and I promised myself when I started Refine that I would never go back to working for somebody. Mm-hmm. So, and at the time, I really thought about that because it was an option, right? I could have gone and worked for, one of my friends that owned some type of business or something like that and gotten a job.
But you made the jump.
And probably gotten comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? But I would have hated it.
Yeah.
I would have hated my existence, would have hated what I do day to day.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time that would listen to me, the day you get comfortable, you should get very uncomfortable because that's it. Like, if you get comfortable, there's no way to jump to entrepreneurship at that point. You're done. You close that chapter of your life, which is fine if that's what you want. But if you're going to battle both, don't do it.
No, it's very hard to be comfortable as somebody that runs a company,
right?
And, and has employees and has.
I feel like we live for that.
That's right.
Like, I think that's what kind of gets us going.
Even taking vacations and days off is, day one is fun. Mm-hmm. It's nice, but by day two, I'm itching for something to happen.
For many years, I would hide from my wife and family that I hate long vacations. It gives me anxiety.
Me too.
And I feel like it's like a drug that you need another hit, right? Like, we're deal guys. We want to close on something else. Right. And if you get away for too long, it's just anxiety.
I just need some action. I just need something to happen.
There's so many times where I feel terrible because, I'd be in a hotel or somewhere, and I would say, honey, I'll be right back. And immediately get out of the room and call my partner. And like, what am I missing? And part of it is self-made, by the way, creating my own anxiety. But it was one of those things where I feel like I was cheating on my family and my kids. I'm like, hey, bud, are we good? We're good? And then call my attorney for no reason at all, trying to find a problem. And I'm like, are you guys missing me? What's going on here? So yeah, I could feel the pain.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing. So I feel you there.
Terrible.
It's very hard to get away.
Right, because that's your baby. That's what you're building.
That's right.
That's all you know in life.
That's right. This is everything I have.
You go to bed, you're sleeping, you're thinking about the business, you wake up, think about the business.
That's right. First thought in my mind every day.
Right. Yep. So now you're convincing Noah, I think you said, right?
No, this is Jonathan.
Okay. Yep. So you're convincing your partner not to get out. Like, there's a vision, we're going to do it.
Yep.
And what happens then?
So at the time we needed money.
Yeah.
Right. So we had $5,000 left.
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
And about what month is this now in 2020?
This is still March.
Oh, okay. Wow.
We're moving very quickly.
Yeah. Get it.
This is still March.
Yeah.
And I called Jonathan and I said, hey, we have $5,000 left. I see there's a deal on a zero turn mower for $3,500. Let's go buy it and start cutting grass. And that's what we did.
Wow.
So for the time we were down those few months, we started a new landscaping company.
Good for you. That's awesome.
And we got out and started cutting grass every day.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And you just pick up your old clients or new clients?
No,
you're just
all
getting
new clients.
All new clients.
Yep. Different marketing strategy, different strategy, right? The company still runs today. It's not something I'm actively involved in or have
any. So you still have a landscaping company?
I'm not involved in it.
Yeah, but
my partner and his dad now run it. But I'm no longer involved. I hated it.
Yeah. How many locations is there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But at the time during COVID, we were doing a good bit. I mean,
people cared about their grass because that's the only thing you got to see.
That's right. That's right. And we were over in the Loganville, Walton County area. So, people have massive yards.
Big yards. And
And we had initially we had a push mower for a week or two until we bought the zero turn.
Yeah.
And that was tough, but I hated it. I wanted to get back to doing what we were doing here.
Building something.
Yep.
That's great. So, and then how many months or when do you realize that, it's coming back again? Because the problem with entrepreneurs is that sometimes we're so full of ourselves. Mm-hmm. You got to be all in, and you keep on telling yourself that, you'll get there. Yep. And then all of a sudden it's like, is it going to come back?
Yeah, no.
We had those dark times.
Was very humbling.
Yeah.
Right. As somebody that is, I'm sure we're very similar, right? Very driven, very sure of what I'm doing.
Yep.
I think COVID was a very humbling experience, and learning that at the end of the day, you and I are not in control.
No.
Right.
And it's unknown.
That's right.
Yeah.
And whatever you believe in, for me, it's God. Right. Yeah. God is in control.
Yes.
So the only thing I could do at the time was pray.
Yeah.
Right. That things would come back.
Yes.
That things would get better, and eventually, I want to say August, got a call back from. Got a call from one of my clients who said, "Hey, we don't care. We're opening back today."
Amazing.
Can you be here today?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, sir.
Yes.
I'll be there today.
Right now.
Yep. I'll be there in a couple of hours.
I've been waiting for this. Yeah.
Yep. And I remember calling a few of my team members at the time that we had from prior and saying, hey, do you want to come back out to work? And a lot of them did not want to.
Yeah.
Right. So we also had to figure out how do we protect our team? Yeah. How do we protect our customers? Yeah, right.
That's not a remote situation.
That's right. You know, we're physically getting into people's cars and moving them and, you know, returning them back up. Right.
And on both sides too, by the way, the consumer would want at that point all the cleansing, cleaning,
that's right.
all that stuff, right? So
we adapted a bunch of cleaning guidelines, and, you know, we would wipe down each car that we touched, use some Clorox wipes, Clorox spray, and wipe down anything we touched, anything we were near, or masked, the whole thing.
Right.
And luckily, they were since they were one of the only places open in the city.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know them, Pasha, right down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the only
place to be. Yeah.
Yep. One of the only places open in the city. We honestly did really, really well. I mean, initially it was very slow, obviously, for the first few weeks, but once word got out that somebody was back open, we started picking back up steam.
And how is the industry in whole reacting to this? Like, is your competition back too, or are you one of the first ones?
We're one of the first ones back. There were a couple of, within a couple of weeks after we started, some other restaurants started coming back on. But I think we were truly the first back here in Atlanta. But a lot of things changed in the parking industry during that time. I'm sure now when you go to a parking lot, you see the QR codes.
Yeah.
That's a new thing that was built during COVID and really promoted during COVID.
Thank goodness for that, by the way. I was the guy that would get yelled at all the time by my wife because I never carry cash. That QR code.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody carries cash.
No.
You know, and being on the other end of it, collecting the cash on a daily basis is the other hassle, right?
Yeah, so it's a good thing here for you.
Yeah. And for us, going back in post or during COVID at the time was, how do we make sure that if this ever happens in the future, we're protected?
Right.
Right. So ever since COVID, our focus has been much more on the parking management side.
Got it.
And we still do a lot of valet, but that is not necessarily our core focus anymore.
So how many months are from, you know, coming back from COVID now, inching, when do you realize that, you know what, okay, we're up to something here. This is real.
Yeah.
It's a real company. Yeah.
I think very quickly realized that we're going to be back, that things are coming back, and that we need to start building for the future here and start putting in those places. I mean, it took us a long time to get back to a place of profitability, right? I want to say a couple of years after that.
Right.
But it was definitely a learning journey, and coming from the valet side and having to learn the parking management side, the maintenance side of the business, and switching from contractors to W-2 employees, all of that.
Learning on the fly.
That's right.
What is parking management? Explain that.
Parking management is we help property owners and asset owners maximize parking revenue out of their parking facility.
Got it.
Like in this parking garage that we're sitting above today.
Got it.
Right, is managing the equipment, managing the lighting, managing the cleanliness, managing every part of it, much like a property management company manages a residential property.
Which I love more because there's a lot more of these guys than valets.
That's right. So we manage strictly on the parking asset side.
Okay, awesome. So you would go, if I own a building, come to me and say, I'll manage your parking for you. And I'm like, great, because I don't want to deal with this crap.
That's right.
And I hand it off to someone like yourself.
Yep.
I own a building, don't know anything about parking. I don't even know that that's a revenue source. A lot of the guys don't. Now I'm like, okay, let me reach out to Dilshan. You architect it for me. Give me the pro forma, whatever you need for CapEx. I go raise it or what have you. Go to you, and then you just take it from there.
That's correct. Yeah, and then we operate the facility.
And I get a monthly check, and I'm done.
Yep. You get a passive monthly check.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Thank you. Yep.
That's where the money is, I'm assuming.
That's right. So that became our core focus, because we saw the industry going that way. Right. Going away from
valet.
Only. Right. Valet only, or human ran parking garages where you pay some guy in a booth, right, for your parking time. Right. Going to a more technologically advanced solution, or a gated solution, right?
And I'm a big believer where the human touch is necessary in most of the things we do in life, but a parking garage is not one of them. There's no service. You don't care,
and it creates slippage as well.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Because it creates a point of error Right. Human error is a reality.
Right. I mean, look, the valet guys are completely different than the guy in the booth. They're on the radio or watching, and most of them don't care.
That's right.
There's no smile or anything. You don't really care.
Yeah, they're just being paid, just 15, 20 bucks an hour to stand in a booth all day or sit in a booth all day.
And I'm sure it's terrible, right? You're in a booth, square box. You don't care. You just want to go home.
Right.
Yeah.
So we helped a lot of facilities, awesome. Get away from the human RAIN facilities into a more technologically RAIN facility.
Got a card processor there.
More an automated facility.
Made it. No theft, no loss, no nothing. It's easier.
That's right. All your revenue is reconciled. You see it on a daily basis.
Don't worry about insurance, workman's comp, and all that good stuff. Okay.
Yep.
And now you got really two divisions running. Which one is doing better, and how long did it take for the parking management to catch up?
So valet was still doing better for a long time, just because you
just know it better. Been there in the market for longer.
We had a lot of clients, had a lot of contacts, and we knew the industry very well. That was something I started in, and even to this day, it's something I love. I love valeting. I love the human aspect of that part of the job of being that first and last impression and providing that level of hospitality
to your customers. Impactful.
Yeah, you can change somebody. You don't know what someone's going through on any day, right? You have an opportunity in a couple of minutes to try and enhance their experience and also turn their day around, maybe. Right. Yeah. And we have the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Parking management was a big learning lesson, right? It was something entirely new to us, right? We were learning on the fly, right? How we learned was by taking our first facility.
Yeah. And how did you get that? Did you think about getting into that space, or did it just come to you?
No, we thought about getting into that space. We approached the property. It was somebody we had already worked on some other stuff for.
Got it. Okay, fair enough.
And he really liked us and liked what we were doing, Jonathan and I, my partner.
Right.
And he was very impressed by us, so he ended up giving us an opportunity.
That's great.
On one of his facilities for us to manage it.
Right.
Which was incredible. Right. And it allowed us the opportunity to learn and get really good at what we do.
And what was this first building like? Is it one of those great locations where event parking became a thing at night, or like a building like this? And
so this was a downtown property in Decatur.
Okay.
This was a downtown property that served the courthouse in the area, but also served, much like you're saying, the nightlife in the evenings.
Right.
Majority of our traffic was that daytime court traffic, but we had a good bit of traffic in the evenings as well.
I'm seeing a lot of that hybrid approach, and might as well.
Right. That's the best way to maximize those facilities. Right.
It's amazing. And it's free money.
That's right.
They're not expecting it, and it's great.
That's correct.
So you did this, and this became really good success.
We started with that one. Took about a year to really get good at that, to really make sure that we knew what we were doing. Right. Brought on some consultants to really learn the space and get really engaged in it.
Right.
And then we started growing that side of the business. And
while managing your valet still.
That's right. And we continue to grow that. We're still continuing to grow that. That is where majority of our focus is today.
Right.
We are growing in the valet side as well. We just launched some hotels in North Carolina this week. But we're continuing to continue to grow the parking management side at the time. And over time, over the last 3 years, the parking management side has grown much faster than the valet side.
That's awesome. How are you getting new clients, North Carolina, for example?
Yeah, so majority of our focus is cold emailing, cold calling.
Do you have a marketing division, or is it just...
So we have a small marketing division. That's something we're just getting more involved in. For the most of the time, my partner and I have been the salespeople of the company. Right. It's been him and I just going out and hunting for opportunities, knocking on doors, and closing opportunities as quickly as we can.
Entrepreneurs.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite parts of the job is getting a contract signed, is sitting across from somebody and selling to them. Right.
Just the art of the deal.
That's right. It's probably the most fun part of what we do day to day. And over time, we just continue to focus on. Right now, we're continuing to focus on our marketing division and trying to scale that out. But majority of our leads come in through us cold calling, cold emailing, reaching out cold. Right. We do have some hot leads, but not many. I mean, we do use channels. Google ads and those things, LinkedIn ads, things like that to try to promote some of those things. But majority, I'd say 80% of our leads are cold.
Cold call. Okay. How many states are you in now?
We're in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and DC.
Do you find it really difficult with the valet part? I'm talking about the human side when you're getting far away from home?
Yeah, it's the valet side is tough to scale.
I'm sure,
especially finding quality candidates in new markets where you don't have a lot of experience. Right. Is finding a good manager in that market, is building a team for him, building all the training processes. Right. And it's really hard to start with one property as well.
Yeah.
Right. So what we try to do now is we try to grab a small portfolio of properties when we move into a new market.
And is that by acquisition or is that by?
So a little bit of both.
Okay.
So we did our first acquisition right out of COVID in 2021. Thank you very much.
That was a good buy.
It was a great buy.
Yeah.
We were lucky because they were struggling because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So we were able to get them at a really good price at the time. That is how we got into Florida, and we acquired Safe Park.
Okay.
At the time, it had a couple of small locations, but the reason we bought it had a government contract at the time, which is a market we wanted to grow into, was on the government contracting side.
And I'm assuming that's more parking management?
That's correct. That's us helping build out city parking programs.
Right.
So much like when you drive around a downtown area and you see the meters on the side of the street, managing those and managing the revenue, managing the
that's awesome.
The appeals and all of those things around the notices being issued on the enforcement side.
Are you still continuing that route?
So we acquired that company in 2021. Took us a long time to get that properly fitted into our culture and our company.
Right.
But we've continued to expand in the Florida market with that company over the last few years.
What areas in Florida are you in?
So we're primarily in the Central Florida market and the Orlando, Ocala, Gainesville markets.
Yeah, a lot of traffic.
That's right.
A lot of parking. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. Is that something you see in the future? Growth by acquisition or organic?
We're doing both.
Okay.
We haven't done another acquisition since, but it is something that we continue to look at. Right. If the right deal comes by, we will acquire it. It strategically makes more sense when you're opening a new market to
makes sense. Yeah.
To have some people that have experience in that market and grab some existing locations that are already producing revenue, obviously, than having to build up from the startup.
And if you had to go organically, how many locations do you need to start off with? Is there a magic number? Is there like 5 locations, or is there?
Not necessarily. It just depends on the size of the location, right? As long as we can afford to hire a manager for that market within those locations that we're acquiring or organically getting, that helps, right? But we've done it both ways. We've even started markets with just one small opportunity because we see the long-term vision of that market,
right?
But we've also waited in some instances to get 2 or 3 locations so we can properly open a market.
Does a geography, are you kind of agnostic to that? Does it matter for you? Is it more per location count? Is there I will not be in New York City no matter what happens, or does it, I need X, Y, Z? Like what makes you go over the hump?
Yeah. So for right now, it's, we want to first continue to grow in the Southeast.
Okay.
It makes more sense for us to be able to send somebody from here if the case is, or, be able to travel very quickly to those locations. But we are pretty agnostic. Okay. As you can tell, we have locations in DC.
Doesn't matter.
So, we are pretty agnostic to wherever the locations are.
As long as locations are there.
That's right.
You can serve it.
Yes. And a lot of the times that we're growing is our current clients acquiring some new real estate in a new market. Right. And we're growing with them.
Right. Educate me a little bit on the industry here too. I'm assuming it's very fragmented. You have your 1 or 2 top big guys, right?
Yep.
And then you have a lot of mom and pops. What makes it big? Is it $1 million in revenue? Is it, 100,000? What's the factor that decides, that you're a real player?
Yeah, I think the factor that decides is your presence, whether you're regional or local or national, right? I think that's a big piece.
Right.
And then secondary would be your annual revenues.
Okay.
Right. I think where the big guys are, they're in the billions today, right? But I think the biggest piece is how many markets are you truly covering?
Right. And then so now you got these 2 real divisions and the company's moving forward. Now you're, little that I've known you're like, screw this. Let's change it up a little bit more. I could do more.
That's right.
You had slow Saturday afternoon, you're like, I'm going to create something new, and then technology comes into mind.
Yeah, and it's technology is something
you're passionate about, obviously.
right.
You tried it,
It's something I've always wanted to be in. It's something I toyed around with, and
is it because you come from technology somehow, or you just see such a need and a lot of opportunities there?
I see opportunity in the sense of that technology can solve some of the needs that operators are doing today, right? And I see a future where operators won't be needed at the same scale and level that they are today, right? So my thought process was it's either we're going to be put out of business by some technology, or I can build the technology that does that, right? So the issue in the parking industry is that exactly what you mentioned is it's very fragmented, especially from a technology perspective, right? At the time when we were operating these parking management locations, we were using multiple tools to run one facility. So there would be one tool for the payments, right? For somebody to scan a QR code and make a payment. Then there would be another tool to enforce on those same vehicles, whether it's booting or towing here in Atlanta, which is common, right? Or some type of LPR enforcement. And then you have the monthly component, right? Your monthly parkers, right? So we would have a third component of what's the third tool we're using to manage our monthly parkers, right? And then there's other components, right? Is how do you drive event revenue, right?
So you got
how do you
technology
integrate?
to manage technology and inefficient.
That's right. It was very inefficient. And that was my biggest issue with how we were running locations at the time. It seemed like it was constantly putting together these pieces of what all do we need and what are all these fees we're paying to manage this one location.
Try to explain that to a property owner.
That's right. So the idea was born out of that was born out of a need for ourselves.
One platform.
Right. Is build an all-in-one platform for operators and for property owners to be able to manage their own facilities without needing necessarily an operator to come in and manage the day-to-day. Where a system could do that.
And when did you come up with this idea?
The idea is something I'd been toying with since I'd say 2022. I pitched it to my partners, but I think everybody was scared to start something new, and with how busy we were and all the chaos going on day to day is, I think everybody had a concern around that. But it's something, and I continued to push it for some time, and eventually, I'm sure that you would probably do the same thing. Is I decided to just do it.
Look for the right time and just jump in.
And just did it. And I was able. I actually met one of Chick-fil-A's developers at the time. Who's now my partner in that company. Along with Jonathan, my partner in my current ventures.
Tech developers or.
He was a developer for Chick-fil-A, developing the Chick-fil-A app.
Got it.
Okay. And he was a mutual friend through some other friends. And I brought up the idea to him. And he was somebody that had been in the parking world prior as a valet.
How about that?
And it was perfect. And
small world.
He loved the idea. And 2023, we launched Park DNA.
Park DNA. Awesome. And you tried it on yourself first, as you're the first customer.
I was the test. Right. So it took us about a year, about 7-8 months to properly develop the product and start testing it. We started testing, I would say, towards the last quarter of 2023 on a couple of our own properties and started testing it. What our product did is it brought in all of those things into one platform. And instead of using booting or towing to at our locations, and as you know, we're very focused on service and hospitality. The idea was that there's friction that's created anytime somebody gets booted or towed in a vehicle, right? You may have had a great experience at Chops as an example, but you come out and now there's a boot on your vehicle.
You hate that restaurant. The food all of a sudden,
that's right,
horrible.
So, and that is, and the other piece of it is living in a city like Atlanta, there's a lot of crime that occurs around booting and towing. And it's been I'm sure you've seen, there's been a push over the last few years to ban booting here in the city. So started thinking through, how do we solve this problem? Right. So what we did is we adapted license plate recognition cameras to track license plates when vehicles pull into a parking facility and when they exit a facility. And then we match that up to the time that they paid for using our payment system.
Okay.
Right. And let's say they paid for 2 hours, but they stayed in our facility for 2 hours and 37 minutes as an example.
Right.
Instead of being booted or towed, they would receive a notification.
Payment.
They would receive a text message within a few hours of them leaving, letting them know they violated our parking rules.
Right.
And there's a notice fee they need to pay. And then along with that, they also get a notice in the mail.
That's amazing.
That's right.
That's great. So, and it's easier for them to pay that rather than dealing with that.
Right. You never know how long you're going to wait on a booter
That's terrible.
Or have to get your car out of the impound.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You probably waste a whole day with our system. You get to leave the facility. You still had a good experience.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to deal with that afterwards.
You're not even pushing back at that point. It's a good experience, actually.
That's right.
And no one's losing any money.
That's right.
And also, to put the boot on, the manual labor, all that is very expensive too. So I'm sure you could actually charge them less.
Right. So
we still get paid for it.
So legally speaking, like as a parking operator in the city of Atlanta, we're not allowed to also be a booting operator.
Got it.
Right. So there has to be distinction between the two.
Okay.
And we're also not allowed to make any money on the booting. So if you're a property owner today and you have booting at your facility, you're generally not making any money.
You're not making any money. You're getting customers pissed off. No one wins.
That's right. And with our product, we also cover all the CapEx included for you to open your facility. So installing the cameras, installing the signage, all the equipment, we cover the entire cost of that.
Got it.
And then the property owner also receives a share of the revenue that's collected through those notices.
And you're managing all of that.
That's right. That's
great. So is all of your locations on this platform now?
About 90%.
Okay.
There still is some that we're transitioning.
Okay.
It's taken us some time.
Do you have any outside clients yet?
We do.
Okay. And how are they reacting? What's the feedback?
They're very happy. We've had a lot of success taking locations from some of our competitors.
Right.
We're having a lot of success. We're continuing to really scale that. That's where my focus is today. My partner is truly running the day-to-day of the management companies.
Redefined. Yep.
Yeah, I'm still involved pretty heavily, but my core focus today is building out the tech side and learning the tech side because I'm not a tech person. Yeah. I have no.
You're an entrepreneur.
Right. I have no training. I didn't really go to college. So it's been a learning lesson. Right. It's been a great learning experience to see how developers work and all those things.
That's great. So right now, how's your executive team made up now? Do you and a partner, founders, are you guys co-CEOs, CEOs? How does that work?
So I'm the CEO currently at Refined and SafePark and at Park DNA. My partner is the COO.
Okay.
And then we have a VP level of executives, everything from a VP of HR, VP of finance. Got it. We have every department you can think of.
Good.
And then below that you have your area managers or your regional managers, right? That manage a territory or a region. I know you're familiar with that, right? Being from the energy world. And then below them, we have managers at the individual location level, which then manage their team at those locations. We're big believers in making sure that each department or each level of this has the ability to make decisions, right? And make those decisions for the best of their team and their clients.
How was that journey, by the way? That is, in my mind, that's a very difficult changeover for an entrepreneur. And from what I heard from you, you're very obsessed with customer service, getting there on time, quickly. You just want to take care of the customer.
That's right.
But at one point, you can't anymore. You have to step away a little bit. How was that journey for you?
I mean, that's still a journey I'm going through right now, right? There's two sides of that. One, it's hard to get your clients that you've dealt with for so long to go to someone else, right? And
they don't know who Redefined is. They don't care. They know Dilshan, and
that's right.
If I call Dilshan right now at midnight, he's going to pick up.
The problem will be solved.
Yeah, immediately.
That's right.
Which is good and bad at the same time.
That's correct. Right. And that's the dichotomy there is how do you balance that, right? And also empower your leaders, right? Because if you don't, then they feel that you don't trust them.
You can't scale.
That's right. And you can't scale.
It's hard to clone yourself.
So that's still something we're walking through. But what's helped is really empowering our leadership team to be what I do, or what I did early on is, check up on these clients as often as you can. Show up in person.
Right.
Introduce yourself. Say who you are.
You're still there.
Right. Tell them that, hey, I'm the guy to call to. You don't need to call Dilshan. You don't need to call Jonathan.
Right.
You call me and I will handle your problem right away.
I'm the main person now.
That's right.
Right.
And I think it's still there's still some friction there. There's still some, especially as we scale, there's still some clients that we're trying to rein in.
Right.
Right. But it's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. I mean, if 2 years ago, if you had interviewed me, I definitely wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
It was nonstop all the time.
Right.
24/7.
It is very difficult to do.
Right.
I went through that struggle myself, but I know a lot of really good entrepreneurs go through that struggle. It's one of those things where it's necessarily evil.
Yep.
You have to make that leap, otherwise you can't scale.
That's right.
But it's so difficult to let go too.
Yeah, it's difficult especially because of how we are. Is we as entrepreneurs, we care so much about our baby.
Well, that's why you built it, right? That's
right.
how you scaled. But at one point, it's like, okay, erase everything. Yeah, I got to go scale back a little bit. It's difficult.
Yeah, and the other thing I like to think about is what decisions are reversible versus what aren't reversible. Right. So for the decisions that are reversible, we should allow our.
Give me an example of each.
Sure. A reversible decision would be changing the rates at a location, right? Let's say one of my team members makes that decision and it goes poorly, right? That is still something we can come back from.
Right.
A irreversible decision would be to, at the same location, drop down to, or stop services or decide because this client is past due for some time, we need to stop. Let's cut them off, right? Those could be irreversible because that's a relationship that's then hard to repair.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair
so it would be, and we try to get our team to think in that scenario is what decision is reversible, you should make it.
Right.
Yeah. We empower you to go make that decision, to go ahead and, because I'm sure, as you scale, as you continue adding these layers to your team and your company, things slow down.
Yeah.
Right. And that same decision that you used to be able to make in 5 minutes now takes 2 days. Yeah. Right. Because it's got to pass through all these levels of approvals. Right. Right. And we don't want to be one of those companies. Right. Right. We want to make sure that our leaders are empowered to make the best decision for the client. And for our employees
and boundaries to make sure that
that's right.
Business
have checks and balances. Right.
How often are you having meetings with your team leaders?
Weekly. Okay. Weekly team meetings with the executive team. Right. And then as far as the leadership team, I mean, we're talking every day, all the time.
And how are you testing the market? Like now I'm a big believer of I respect my competition a lot. If someone is doing better than I am, I have no ego and I'll say, let's go check it out. These guys are better than me. How do we get close? How do we get better? Right? How often are you checking the market? So that's something I pay a lot of attention to. I think you and I are similar in that way, that I think you have to respect your competitors. There's a reason they're your competitors. Right. There's a reason they're doing well. Right. And I think as younger entrepreneurs, especially when you start early on, there's this level of ego that you think you know everything. Yeah, you're invincible. Right. But I think the biggest thing for me that I'm learning right now as I'm getting older is that I don't know anything. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know this area, right? Yeah. I know these things, right? You could wake me up at 4 a.m. and ask me something about valet or parking management, and I'm sure I can answer it, or parking technology. But if you ask me something about law or, anything outside of my purview on a daily basis, 5 years ago, I thought I knew everything. Right. So I think it's life teaches you that, right? I think you, can I cuss? You can do whatever. I think you get kicked in the balls enough times, in business that you realize, like, I need good advisors and good people around me to make the best decisions. Right. It's funny. I've been fortunate to be around great entrepreneurs, and it seems like it's a common thread. One is they're driven, right? And it's never a no. They'll make it happen. The other one really is that when you're young, you're an a-hole. You're like, I know everything. Yeah. And then when you get older and your company starts doing better, you're like, wait. I don't know anything. That's right. Right? I need to learn. And now you become a student rather than the other way around. That's right. It's incredible that you said that because, and you said this earlier too, starting the parking management business, you hired consultants. Mm-hmm. It is so difficult. So when an entrepreneur does that, that means egos are down. I'm going to hire someone to teach me something I'm not seeing. Not that they're smarter than me or I'm better or any of that, but you put your egos to the door. Say, let me get some help. maybe I'm missing something.
And
it was incredible.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard to put my ego to the side at the time when we did bring on consultants, because now you're bringing on this third party that doesn't necessarily know your culture or know how your team operates on a daily basis, but they're there to provide input and provide feedback, right?
But that's how you build a great company. Otherwise, you'd be a solopreneur, probably still jumping on shifts and parking your own cars. Because you know what you know well, but to take it to the next level, you gotta open that up.
Yeah, and the great thing was the consultant we brought on at the time was honestly treated us like mentees. You know, he was almost a mentor. To me, even to this day, it's somebody I still keep in touch with and, in a sense, look up to. Because, you know, he really taught us how to run that side of the business and challenged us to make sure that we knew what we were doing.
But kudos to you, because, again, you're paying someone to tell them, I don't know enough. And that's hard. Especially in front of your team members. Because you're like, I'm the guy. I know it all. Trust me. And at one point to swallow that pill.
It's definitely challenging, but I think once you make that leap and you start learning from consultants or even advisors or you know, experienced entrepreneurs like yourself, is knowing that ego doesn't get you far in business, right? There are times where your ego is definitely needed.
Of course.
When somebody's
if you didn't have one, we would never be here.
That's right.
You would never start a business.
That's right. You have to be protective about what you have.
Correct.
And protective about what your team is building and the culture, right? And make sure that you're heavily focused on that and you're nurturing that. But at the same time, you have to learn to let your ego down and bring on the right people at the right times. I mean, today I wouldn't be here without my team. They're much more qualified than me at a lot of things, right? And I think it's learning. This was a hard one for me, is learning that I'm not good at everything. Right. I'm not good at every part of the business. Right. I don't love to deal with the reconciliation and the bookkeeping and all of that, which I did.
And it's okay to admit that. Right.
And that is not an area I'd love to deal with. Besides, obviously reading financials and all of that is very important and you have to do it. But that is not an area I wanted to lead or deal in. But to get
someone stronger than you that fills that gap.
That's right. And it's learning to bring on the right people.
Right. You know, it's funny with the advisory company now, or the firm, I tell people that the reason I did it is that I think in life I'm good at one or two things, maybe, but I suck at 80,000 things. I know for a fact. Let me help you fill that gap, because I'm not good at it, right? And I don't have the ego now to say, hey, if I'm going to do parking management, I have a friend, let me call Dilshan. Like, he could give me a lot more. Why do I need to learn that myself? That's why partners are so important. It could be partners as a real business partner, or it could be an executive team member or leader, whoever. But those partners are so important in life, because you can't do everything on your own. You can't.
You know, something we say a lot internally is, you know, partnerships are like marriage.
It is.
Right? I spend more time with my partners in business than I probably do at home.
Yeah, but after you get married, you're not going to do that anymore, right? We have you on record now.
We'll see.
Your fiance's listening.
We'll see.
Don't do it. But no, you're right, 100%. And then the way you are at work and you know, your goals being met and all that impacts the house so much, and vice versa. By the way, the most important decision, and rightfully so, is your marriage or the partner at home, because he or she makes everything better.
That's right.
You come home and you're happy, solves everything.
Yep.
Vice versa. So, and work is important. So you got to pick your partners wisely.
100%.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
So what's the future here? You're obviously off to a great freaking start. Congratulations, my man.
Thank you very much.
And this is just the beginning, I could tell. So what are you doing 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What's the goal here? And what's the perfect legacy?
Yeah. So for me, it's for the foreseeable future is continue scaling the things I'm already in. I'm sure you can relate to this. As entrepreneurs, we're always looking for what's the next thing, or what's the, there's always the gold shiny object somewhere else, right? But I think in this season of life, I'm really learning to dive deeper into what I already have, and really focus and scale this. So for the foreseeable future, I want to continue scaling the management side and the refined and safe park, and then continue scaling the technology side and really building that out. That's still very early. We're very young as a company, a very small team of about 20 people. So it's continue to build the processes and layers of people that we need to make the right decisions and to grow effectively, right? Long term, 2 to 5 years, I would say, is continue to do this and continue to
scaling,
continue to be the preeminent parking service provider. Globally is the goal, and our mission is, to be the preemptive parking service provider globally by putting people first and providing exceptional service. So it's continuing to do that and continue to build our team and build our leaders so that there is a point where we are not needed as much day to day.
That's very powerful. Right?
Yeah. And then on the technology side is continue to scale that and really change a lot of these operations today that are archaic. Right, that are still running on 1990s equipment. Right, is continue to revolutionize those and make the system and the products better. And how do we make parking facilities more efficient? Right, how do we use AI and the tools that we have available today and leverage those to do dynamic pricing and do things to take consideration of traffic in the area and movement in the area and increase rates or decrease rates based on that. But long term, the focus is family, and I'm faith is very important to me. I'm a believer. It's very important to me to continue to build my family and build it by those values. But the biggest dream for me in life is, and this is very unrelated to everything I've talked about today, is I have a deep passion for animals. I want to build a rescue. Like a sanctuary for animals that are either in rescues today where they're going to be euthanized or put down, is giving them a chance to spend their last few years in a place where they're loved and feel at home, and also bring in animals that are injured from anywhere else. That is the long-term dream. I would love to.
And you want to do it here or somewhere overseas?
No, it'll be here in the U.S. I want to build a sanctuary, a couple 100 acres, and just build kind of where I grew up, build a farm.
That's great. Fantastic.
And continue to build businesses and continue to drive legacy in business. The long-term play is also real estate and that was one of the reasons I wanted to get into parking, was to understand real estate better and those things. And I think it's given me a very good insight into what to look for and what not to look for. So here over the next couple of years, I'd like to start acquiring real estate on my own and
turn them into parking facilities? Yeah,
parking facilities or similar facilities that have some type of industrial outdoor storage component or something like that, where I can use my skills and our technology to maximize those. But yeah, that's the goal.
That's amazing. Well, that's freaking great. So tell me, things that obviously you're a great entrepreneur here and many more years to come. What do you do for fun? Besides working? Yeah,
that's a good question. If you'd asked me a couple of years ago, there was no answer to that question. It was nothing but work. There was no time for fun. I would say now that I'm recently engaged, it's spending time at home, spending time with my dog and my cat.
What kind of dog and cat?
So I have a Siamese cat. Was never a cat person until my fiance now. When we met, she had a cat. So I love that cat now. And then I have a American Bully dog. And I love dogs. So dogs are a big passion for me, something that really drives me. I know for a lot of people, it's wanting to give their kids a better life. For me, it's about giving my pets a better life in my current situation. But for fun, I would say when I have the time, it's working out, hiking, things like that. Spending time outdoors. That's big for me, and I love cars. I like to.
What do you drive now?
Currently, I'm driving something boring, just a Lexus. But I've had a lot of everything over the years.
Are you more of a sports car guy or a luxury car?
No, more of a sports. The older BMWs, your E30s, E36s. That's what I love. E46s, and I just like tinkering with things. Right, I like tinkering with engines and tinkering with vehicles, motorcycles, and cars, and kind of making them my own. Right. So that's a big passion for me, and it's something over the next, I think, as things kind of slow down, I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's finding more time for things like that.
Car collection maybe in the future.
100%. Yeah, that'll definitely be a part of the future.
That's awesome. Favorite restaurant in Atlanta?
Ooh, favorite restaurant in Atlanta.
Well, I just realized that's a terrible question to ask. Besides the one that's not giving the most revenue in parking, that is.
Okay.
I just thought about that.
Yeah, because this, I have to be careful answering this, right?
Be careful.
I would say there's a lot of amazing restaurants in Atlanta. I think we have a great food culture here.
We do. We have developing vastly.
That's right. I would say right now, I love a lot of the Mediterranean stuff. You know, the Del Bars, the Pashas, the Mandolins.
Yeah, the new Del Bar here in Buckhead. The atmosphere. I feel like I'm in Miami when I'm there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I'm a boring human being. I go to bed really early.
Yeah.
So, the wife and I will go there at like 5 o'clock. I'm like, this feels great. By 7, we're out.
Yeah, I do love La Grata. It's one of my favorite restaurants in the city. It probably is my number one restaurant in the city.
I think it's probably the best restaurant in Atlanta.
Yeah, I would say
the servers there. I mean, they've been there for 30, 40 years, whatever. I mean, it's incredible.
It's an incredible level of service.
It's amazing. Yeah. The wine cellar there is so cool. It's a great place.
Yeah, I love that place. Yeah. I'm actually going there for dinner tonight.
Are you really?
I'm excited.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, welcome. You guys are welcome to join.
Terrible. Hey, we're not going to release this thing until he takes us out.
I'm taking my sister and her new husband. She just got married last week, so Congrats. I'm taking them out to dinner tonight.
That's great. That's amazing. A great place to be.
Yeah.
Awesome. Travel? Any travels coming up here?
Got a lot of weddings right now.
Yeah.
A lot of friends getting married. Seem like we're in that season of life where everyone around me is, planning to get married or getting married or getting engaged.
Right.
So just had 2 weddings this last month. Got 2 more this month. Got one next week. It's local, and then we're traveling to Tampa for the next one at the end of the month. And then we are working on some personal travel plans, but that's more of her department and not mine.
Yeah. Great answer, by the way. For the audience here and people that don't know the Indian Desi culture, Punjabis are the coolest, man. Like Punjabi weddings, the only thing negative about Punjabi weddings that I hate is the next week because you're recovering the entire time.
I'm still recovering.
Oh, and you know what? The younger folks, that's not the problem. It's the uncles.
Yes. They
get their Johnny Walkers out and they're pounding. It is incredible.
If you knew how much Johnny Walker we ran through for this wedding,
I could imagine.
It's insane.
I have a lot of Punjabi friends, and it is. Even when I was younger, when I thought I could drink, you can't.
Yeah.
Those Punjabi uncles.
It's a genetic thing.
And they make fun of you.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you have nothing. Oh, dude, it is so bad.
Yeah.
And the food is so incredible.
The food is amazing. The culture is amazing.
Yeah.
It's an incredible culture.
It's a party, warm hospitality. Mm-hmm. It is amazing.
Yeah, very party focused for sure. You're 100% right about that.
And they start slapping you and hugging you and your family. And you could go to you could crash a Punjabi wedding. By the time you leave, you'll be family.
Oh, we had, so during my sister's wedding, there was another event going on across at another venue that ended a couple hours early. And pretty much majority of those people just walked over. We don't, we don't care at Indian weddings. There's already 350 people there. What's another 5?
It's a small wedding.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's incredible. It is incredible. But if I went to a venue where there's a Punjabi wedding and one of my family, I would sneak into the Punjabi wedding for sure. I just went to Toronto. My cousin got married last year, and Toronto and Brampton, it's all Punjabis.
It's all Punjabis,
and his friends are all Punjabis. Holy jeez, I couldn't hang. Yeah. I mean, I can't physically. I can't do it.
I used to. I've definitely slowed down. I've decided that there's better decisions to make than
these guys are drinking while I'm trying to wake up in the morning. That's how they're. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a very common thing. I grew up in around my dad drank his entire life.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid, I've seen him drink every day.
Yeah.
So.
And it's funny because Punjabi wedding, especially in the culture, they don't drink to get drunk. They're drinking to bond.
That's right.
And it's like in the parking lot. My favorite is. Somehow the uncles sneak out and go to the parking lot. I don't care if it's 90 degrees or 30 degrees. They're out there having fun, bonding.
Somebody's
drinking.
Always got a bottle in the car. Always.
The trunk opens up and something comes out. It's the one uncle you don't think that drinks.
And sometimes they even have snacks. They'll have food. They'll have a whole setup in the back of their van or their truck.
It is great. No, I am jealous, man.
You'll definitely be invited to my wedding.
I will be there for sure. I just got to make sure that I let the people know that I'm not going to be here for a week after that because the recovery sucks.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a good time in mind.
Yeah, as long as you valet the car, man, I'm good.
That's
I'm
right.
Good.
Yeah, we also want to let you drive home.
Yeah, that's it. That's perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dilshan, for coming in. Congrats, man. This is amazing. I had a lot of guests over here, and you're onto something huge. I could just sense it. Congrats, and good luck to everything.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.